To access the written version of this pattern and download the printer-friendly PDF, use the link on screen now, in the description below, or by going to clubcrochet.com/turkey. Hey there, it's Louie, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet a turkey birb. You heard that right, birb with 2 B's. The reason I call these guys birbs is because they're really not the birds that they look like. They're actually secret agent birds that live with a little mask of another bird. Here you can see the little tiny bird underneath. So this is part of a collection of birbs that I've been making. Here you can see a few different kinds. There's a little hummingbird, a cardinal, an eagle. But in this video, we're going to be making a turkey specifically. If you'd like to find the patterns for all these different kinds of birbs, use the link on screen now in the description below or by going to clubcrochet.com/birb. I'll be coming out with more of these intermittently. A lot of these aren't out just yet because they're kind of just in the rough draft part, but I'll be adding them to the website soon. In this video though, I'll be teaching you how to make the turkey specifically, and we'll be learning not only how to make the removable head version, but also a solid turkey without the removable head. This guy's just a straight up turkey. All right, well, for this pattern, let's get our other birbs out of the way. By the way, if you have a favorite, let me know in the comments. Personally, I think my favorite right now is this little barn owl, but I really, really like the pigeons. I mean, the pigeons are just amazing. All right, well, now let's get these guys out of the way. There we go. Get these guys out over here. There we go. All right, so for this pattern, you're going to need the following materials. I'm using all worsted weight yarn in 100% cotton. I'm using the colors pink, yellow for the beak, maroon or wine for the gobbler. That's what I call this little thing that goes over the beak. You'll need yellow for the little feet as well. And then for the body, you're going to need brown and an orange. I like using this. It's called Country Red. I think it works really well. It's kind of like an orange red that I really like. It's kind of hard for me to find cotton yarn that's got a good orange in it, so I think this works really well. Because I'm using all worsted weight yarn, I'm using a size G 4mm crochet hook. You'll also need a darning needle to sew in ends and safety bead eyes. I'm using 6mm safety bead eyes. And I actually need 4 pairs for this because I have some on the head here and then some on the bottom birb like that. But if you're only going to be adding, just making the straight turkey without the birb headless part, then you'll just need 2 safety bead eyes. You can also be making your birb with bobble stitch eyes. That's what I call this one right here, or without bobble stitch eyes like this. I'll be teaching you how to do both in this video. All right. Well, without further ado, I think that's it. Oh, you also need stuffing, of course. Okay, well, without further ado, let's get hooking. We're going to start by making our little gobbler here. Okay, so for our gobbler, we're going to be using our wine yarn here, or maroon. We're going to start with a slip knot. So I'm just going to make a loop and then turn that loop on itself and then grab the inside right here, just pull it through, which will create a little knot. Okay, and then you have this little tail end. I suggest having a somewhat long tail end. This is going to be just fine, just about that long. We'll need that for sewing it on later. Okay, so we're going to put that on our crochet hook, tighten it up a little bit. And for the gobbler, we're going to chain 5. Make sure to pull through with our end attached to the yarn, not our tail end. And we're going to just grab it with the crochet hook and then chain like that. We're going to chain 5 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now we're going to skip our first 2 chains, and into the 3rd chain from the hook right here, we're just going to slip stitch 1. So we're just going to yarn over, pull through, and then pull through the loop on the hook like that. And that is actually all you need to do for the gobbler. To finish it up, we're just going to chain 1 more, just like that, and then cut the yarn. You need, again, just a little bit of end. That's probably just about fine for a gobbler. And we can just pull that all the way through, tighten it a little bit. And this is going to be sewn onto the face of our turkey over the beak. So we'll just put this to the side and we'll come back to it a little bit later. All right, next up, we're going to be making the wings, and you're going to need both your orange or country red, that's what I'm using, and your brown yarn for this. We're going to start with our brown yarn, so we'll just keep the orange to the side, really close at hand. And we're going to start with a magic loop. Now for making the magic loop, I'm going to pinch it, going over the top of my fingers here, and I'm going to use my 2 index and middle finger here, pinch it with between my middle and thumb, and go over the 2, and then cross over it like so, and then pull it over like that, and then we're going to grab it with our ring and pinky like so, just to hold it into place. Now if you look at the back, you should have 2 bars on the back. Take your crochet hook, go under the first bar, and then yarn over the second and pull that under the first. And then we're just going to kind of loop it like this. Oops. Loop it like that to create a little loop. See that? And we're just going to yarn over with that same end right here and pull that through the loop like so. And that'll create a little chain, and you can pull it off of your finger now. Now you want this end to be somewhat long, not too bad. That's probably just enough. Okay, so for round 1 of our wings, we're going to start by single crocheting 3 times into the magic loop. So over these 2 bars right here. We're just going to single crochet 3. So I'm going to go into the center of the loop, yarn over and pull that loop under, and then yarn over again and pull through the 2 loops on the hook for a single crochet. So we want to do 3 of those. So there's 1, go into the hole, pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2. That's 2. Now the third one I'm going to make all the way, but I am going to pull it out in just a second. So we're going to yarn over, go under the loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. And we're going to undo that in just a second, but we got to do it first so that we can tighten the magic loop. So once you have that done, you can pull this end here and it'll tighten the loop up and make it nice and tight. Okay, so now we need our orange yarn because we're going to change to orange. And what we want to do is we want to undo that last one that we made right there, okay, till we have the 2 loops sticking out, and put your crochet hook back into those 2 loops. And then we're going to take our new yarn and we're going to place it in between the 2 loops on the hook and the end attached to the yarn right here. Okay, so see how it's in between the 2? And what we want to do is we want to hold it down with our index finger of our dominant hand, and with our index finger of our non-dominant, we want to hold it in between the 2 yarns like this and just flip it under, then yarn over with the new color, or orange. We're just going to pull that through the 2 loops on the hook, like so. There we go. And that'll be the end of row 1 for your wings. Okay, so for row 2, we're going to be working now in our orange yarn here. Now you do want this tail end to be a little bit longer, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull that tail end longer right now while I can. And then I can pull everything a little bit tighter again. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2 with our orange yarn, 1 and 2, and we're going to turn our piece, and we're going to be working into these single crochets that we made in our previous round, but we want to work around our brown yarn. And what we're going to do in each of these single crochets is we're going to do a half double crochet, 2 half double crochets actually, so it's a half double crochet increase. So we're going to yarn over with our new color, orange. We're going to go into the next stitch right here, which is where our chains are attached to. Make sure to go under both loops like that. And make sure to work around this brown yarn. So keep that brown yarn over the crochet hook, then hook onto our orange yarn, pull it through the loop, and you can see that our brown yarn is being held down by that. And then yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops on the hook for a half double crochet. I'll do that again in just a second. So there's your first half double crochet. And we want to do 2 of these into each one of these stitches. So there's the first one. Now we're going to do another one into the exact same stitch. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to still work around the brown yarn. We want to work around the brown yarn for all of these stitches. We're going to half double crochet into the exact same stitch. So you can kind of see where the hole is right there. That's the same stitch. So we're going to go into that hole. Make sure to work around this brown yarn and yarn over and pull a loop through of our orange yarn. Now you should have 3 loops on the hook. Then you yarn over, pull through all 3 of those loops for a half double crochet. So there's our first half double crochet increase. You can see we have 2 coming out of the same stitch. We want to do that in all 3 of these stitches. So let's do another one. So we're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch over, which is going to be right here. Make sure you're under both of those loops. Then yarn over again and pull through. Yarn over again and pull through all 3 of those loops. Okay, there's our first half double crochet increase. Let's do another one into the same stitch. There we go. And then here's our final stitch. We need one more half double crochet increase, but with our last half double crochet in that increase, we are going to pull through with brown. So just keep a note of that. I'll show you how to do that though. So we're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch right here. If you look at the top, you'll see that V. See the V right there? That's what we want to work under. Just giving you a heads up there. Sometimes it can be kind of hard to get under both of them, so I like to use the nail of my dominant hand like that to make sure I'm in it. Make sure to work around that brown yarn, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Okay, one more half double crochet into the same stitch, but our final pull through is going to be with this brown yarn. So we're going to yarn over, go into the same stitch, yarn over and pull a loop through. So now you should have 3 loops on the hook. And now we want to change to brown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my index of my non-dominant hand, place it in between the 2 colors here, and flip it under, yarn over with our new brown color, and pull that through all the loops on the hook, like that. And I'll pull this one just a little bit tighter. We're going to use all these ends to sew it all closed in the end. So what we can do now is we can actually cut this orange yarn, or this red orange yarn, because we won't need it, but leave enough of an end, like about that long, so that we can sew it on with. And we'll pull that all the way through like that. Okay, now for our last row, row 3, there are 2 different parts of this, because there's a right and a left wing, because they both have to be made differently. So here you can see this one is going to be the right wing, and here is the left wing. Okay, and you're basically doing the same stitches, but putting them in different places. So we're going to start with our right wing. So what you're going to do for row 3R, that's what I'm calling it in the pattern, 1 right, 1 left. So for row 3R, we're going to turn and chain 3. So I'm going to chain 3 first. So 1, 2, and 3, and then turn our piece. And into the next stitch right here, our first orange stitch right there, we want to slip stitch 1. So we're going to go into that stitch with the hook, yarn over with brown, pull it through that loop, and then through the loop on the hook like that. And that'll be our first little feather. Okay, so we want to do that 3 times. So let's repeat that one again. We want to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and do a slip stitch into the next stitch right here. Make sure you're under both of those loops. Like that. There's our second wing. Now a third one, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Next stitch right here. Yarn over and pull through, and then pull through the loop on the hook. That's a little slip stitch right there. Okay, so there's our first 3. There's our little wings. And now to finish up the right wing, all you have to do is slip stitch into the last 3 stitches. So we're just going to go into the next stitch right here and slip stitch 1. Here's the next stitch, slip stitch 2, and here's the last one right here. We're just going to slip stitch 3. Okay, now to finish up this wing, all we have to do is we need to cut the yarn. You want to leave a somewhat long end, not too bad, right? Just like that. And then just pull that all the way through. And that will finish up the wing. So there's our right wing finished. Now I'm going to go ahead and get our left wing started. I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to repeat rows 1 and 2. And then for row 3, I'm going to come back and show you how to do the other side of the wing. So I'll be right back in just a second. Okay, so here I am at the end of row 2 again, and we're just going to pull through with our brown yarn again. So I'm just going to flip it under, pull that through, just like that. We can cut our orange yarn, leaving enough to sew it onto the back, onto the side. Pull that through. And then for the other side of the wing, we're on row R or 3L now instead of 3R. We're going to turn and chain 1. So I'm just going to do those kind of simultaneously, just our 1 chain instead of our 3 chains. And then we're going to slip stitch into our next 3 stitches. So just go into the next stitch right here, and we're just going to slip stitch 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do our little feathers into the next 3 stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then slip stitch into the next stitch right here. And we're going to repeat that 3 times total. So there's our first repeat. Let's do it again. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then slip stitch into the next right here. Make sure you're under both of those loops. Okay, last repeat, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then slip stitch into the last stitch right there. Make sure you're only under those loops. There we go. I almost went into the wrong stitch right there. Be careful about that. We'll slip stitch 1, and now we can finish this up. Here you can see how the wings are a little bit different. So we're going to finish this up by cutting the yarn, leaving a somewhat long end, about like that long. It's probably more than enough. And we'll just pull that all the way through like so. Okay, now I'm just going to hold these next to each other so you can see the difference again. And I'll try to hold all the threads in my hand so you can really see the difference. There you go. So see how this is our... Let me hold it like this. This is our left wing, and this is our right wing. I know I'm holding it in the opposite hand right now, but yeah, you can see how they look different. They're basically just the mirror opposite of each other. Okay, so that's how you do the wings. And next up, we are going to be making the tail, which is probably the most complicated part in the whole pattern, to be honest. But it's not too crazy after you do the wings. So we're going to start with our brown yarn. And we're going to start with a magic loop again. Now, since I already taught how to do the magic loop, I'll just do it really quick. And you want a somewhat long tail end, so make sure to have a little bit extra there. I'm just going to go under and make that magic loop again. Okay. So for row 1 of the wing, we're going to single crochet 4 into the magic loop instead of the 3 that we did for our wings. We're going to do 4. So we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, and here is our last one, 4. Now I'm going to finish that stitch, but I am going to undo it in just a second because we want to change colors again, just like how we did on the wings. So we're going to grab our orange yarn, and I'm going to undo one of those stitches, just that last stitch right there, and then take our new color. You want a little bit of a tail end, so make sure to keep a little bit extra, and then flip it under with the new color and yarn over and pull through with orange. And that will be the end of, there we go. That'll be the end of row 1. For row 2, we're going to turn our piece and chain 2, 1 and 2. And you want to make sure to work around this black or this brown yarn that's attached to the ball of yarn. We're going to turn our piece like that. And we are going to do the same thing that we did in our last wing, but an extra one now. We're going to half double crochet increase into the next 3 stitches. So we're going to yarn over with orange, go into the next stitch right here, make sure to work around this brown yarn. And we're going to half double crochet 1 and 2 into that same stitch. Okay, so you want 3 half double crochet increases. So there's 1. Let's do our second half double crochet increase into this next stitch right here. 1 and 2. Get a little bit more yarn. And we'll do our last half double crochet increase into the next stitch right here. And again, we're still working around this brown yarn. 1 and 2. And then finally, we want to do one more half double crochet into this last stitch. Just one half double crochet into that last stitch. So we're going to yarn over into this last stitch right here, like that. Make sure you're under both loops. Pull through. And then to finish up row 2 here, we want to change back to brown. So I'm going to flip under, switch to brown, yarn over, and pull through those stitches with brown to change back to brown. Okay, let's kind of see how it's coming together there. Okay, so now for row 3, we're going to chain 2 and turn. 1, 2, turn. And now we want to work around this orange tail that we made, like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to double crochet 1 into the first. So for a double crochet, we're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch right here. Make sure to go under this red tail end too, and then yarn over and pull through like we did a half double crochet. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through only 2 loops on the hook instead of all 3 for a half double crochet. For a double crochet, we only pull through 2. So we're just going to pull through those 2, then yarn over again and pull through the final 2 right here. Okay, so there's 1 double crochet, so double crochet in the first, and then we want to do a double crochet increase, or 2 double crochets into the next 6 stitches. Okay, so into 6 stitches, we want 2 double crochets. So we yarn over, here's our next stitch right here. Gonna do a double crochet, so we pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over, pull through 2 again. And this is gonna be a double crochet increase, so 2 double crochets into the same stitch. So we're gonna do that again. Yarn over, go into the same stitch, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, then yarn over and pull through 2 again. Okay, so there's our first double crochet increase. And again, we want 6 of those. Okay, so there's 1. Let's do that repeat again. Here's our next stitch, double crochet, and then another double crochet. There's our second double crochet increase. Here's going to be our third double crochet increase into the next stitch. Still working around that tail end. Going a little bit quicker now. A little bit more yarn. Let's do that was 3 double crochet increases, so just a couple more. Halfway there, there's 1 and 2. Okay, there's our 4th double crochet increase. One and 2. There's our 5th double crochet increase. Now 1 more double crochet increase. Now this is technically the last stitch right there. We are going to work into the chain that we made from the last round for our final stitch, but this is not our final stitch. This is the stitch before our final stitch, our last double crochet increase. Going under both of those loops. Make sure you're under both those loops. See how I went under that other end right there? We don't want to do that, just like that. But we will be working around this tail. So we'll just go ahead and 1 and 2. Okay. And then finally, to finish up row 3 here, we want to yarn over and work a double crochet into the chain spaces from the previous round. So basically just like anywhere right here. Okay, I just go into like any of these chains. It doesn't really matter which chain you're going on here. We just need 1 more double crochet. So I'm just going to work under this chain like so. And still working around this tail end. I'm going to go 1. And now to finish up this double crochet though, we do want to do our final pull through for our last 2 stitches here with our orange. So we want to switch over to orange. Again, how I do that is I place my index finger between the 2 colors and I just flip it under like that. We're going to yarn over with our new orange color and pull that through the last 2 stitches like that. Now for our last round here, we don't need the brown yarn. So I can actually cut it, and you want to leave somewhat of a long end for sewing onto the back. That's probably good. Pull it to the side. And now we are on our final round. So final row. So for row 4, we want to chain 3 and turn. So 1, 2, and 3. We're working all in our orange yarn now. And what we want to do is we want to skip our first stitch. So skip that first one and then slip stitch 1 into the next one right there. Like that. Okay. Now we want to do a repeat. Remember how we did the wings on that other one? We want to do that same repeat 12 times in a row. So not counting this first one that we did, 12 more times we want to do that repeat. Okay, so that repeat again is chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and then slip stitch into the next stitch right here. So this is the next stitch. You only skip the first stitch. After that, you work into each one. So there's 1. Let's do that again. Chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Slip stitch into the next stitch right here. There's 2. Let's do it again. 1, 2, and 3 chains. And there's our next slip stitch. There's 3. And we'll just keep going all the way down. 3 chains, slip stitch 1. Get a little bit more red yarn. Or I should call it orange because that's what it's called in the pattern anyhow. Chain 3, slip stitch 1. 1, 2, and 3. And you don't really need to count these if you don't want to. You basically just need to keep doing this all the way till you get to the last stitch. 1, 2, 3, and a slip stitch. Hey, if you like this video, please like it down below and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I come out with new videos just like this all the time. And liking and subscribing helps it get noticed by other people as well. So it spreads the love of crocheting, which I think we can all agree is amazing. All right, 2 more. 1, 2, and 3, and a slip stitch. And this is going to be our last one. You just want to work into the last stitch here. You don't need to work into the chain spaces like you did in row 3. In row 4, we can just go ahead and just do 3 chains. 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch into that last one right here. Now, if you want to count your stitches, you should have, I believe, 13 of these little ends. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Yes, 13, perfect. And then to finish it up, all you need to do is cut the red yarn, or the orange yarn. Let's go like that long. And we'll just take this end and just pull it all the way through. Okay. Now you should have 4 little ends sticking here and there throughout that. And we're going to use that to sew onto the body a little bit later. Okay. Let's put this to the side with our wings, and we'll come back to it a little bit later. And then next up, we want to make our feet of our turkey. So for the feet, we're going to be using our yellow yarn, and we just need to make a slip knot, like so. Get our crochet hook in there. And the feet are actually pretty easy. All you need to do is you need to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And what you want to do is you want to pull this tight. So pull it really tight, and it'll create a little point with those last 2 chains. See how it's kind of making a little point right there? That's what we're looking for. And we want to slip stitch into the 3rd chain right here. Now I like working into the back loop of the chain like that, if you can. But if you can't, that's fine too. You can always just work into this one right here. Okay, so just work a slip stitch into that 3rd chain like that. Okay, it'll make this little point. See how we're making a little point? Okay, now you want to do, so that's the first step. There's 3 steps to this foot because you're making 3 feet, 3 toes. So there's our first step. Now for step 2, we want to chain 2, 1 and 2, and we want to pull that tight, which will create a little point. And we're going to slip stitch into that same space that we slip stitched last time. You can see a very big hole right there. That's exactly where we want to slip stitch. We'll get our crochet hook into that, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through the loop on the hook. There's 2. Let's do one more step. For step 3, we want to chain 2 again. So 1, 2. We're basically repeating the last thing. Pull it tight and slip stitch into that hole again. And the reason I like to work into the back loop is because it makes that hole a little bit less open. But, you know, it's not that big of a deal, honestly. Okay, to finish up these feet, you just need to chain 1. Cut the yarn. You need a somewhat long end. It doesn't need to be that long, but that's probably just fine. Like that, and just pull it all the way through, like that. Okay, now the best way I found to make these feet look right, because it looks kind of wonky right now, the best way I found is just pinching each of these little points. So we just pinch the point, pinch it, and pinch it like that, and it makes it into 3 little points. And so when we sew it onto the body, we're going to take these little 2 tail ends and sew that straight into the body, and it'll make our little feet. Here, I'll show you it on our finished little fella here. You can see how it kind of just boop, boop, just like that. Okay, so you want to make 2 of these feet. I'm going to go ahead and do the other one off camera, since you don't need to see me do it again. And then when we come back, we'll make the Birb Beak. Okay, so the last part we want to make is the Birb Beak, which is the beak that goes under the head right here. So if you're making it attached, you don't need to make this. Okay, so don't worry about making this if you're making the head attached to your piece, because you won't need it. But if you are making the bird, then what you need to do is we need to do a slip knot in yellow. Like that. The Birb Beak's super easy. Whoops. All you need to do is chain 3. So yarn over and do 1, 2, and 3. And working into the back loop of the 3rd chain from the hook. Okay, so we're going to skip the 2 chains. 1, 2. We want to work into that back loop. Here you can see there's the top and the bottom loop. But if you flip it on the back right there, see that little spine? That's our back loop. So we're going to get a crochet hook into that back loop like that. I always need my nail to get into that. It helps a lot. And then all you want to do into that back loop is do a half double crochet. So I actually need to set it up. So we're going to yarn over, go into that back loop right there, like that, and then yarn over again, pull through that back loop, and yarn over a 3rd time, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook to make a half double crochet. And then to finish up the Birb Beak, we just chain 1, like that, cut the yarn. You don't need very much of an end. That was actually probably more than I'll need. We'll just pull that all the way through like that and pull it really tight. All right, so now this little beak will be sewn onto our little birb. Again, that's only if you're making the birb. If you're not, then just ignore this part. Okay, so now we can finally start working on the head. So for the head, we're going to start with our pink yarn, and I'm going to start with a magic loop again. So I'm just not going to really teach how to do it since I taught in the first part of this video. Okay, there's our magic loop. I'm going to pull a little bit tighter, but not too tight. Move our scissors a little bit. All right, so for round 1, we want to single crochet 6 times into this magic loop. So just single crochet 6 into the magic loop. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here is our final one, 6. We can pull this nice and tight now. Okay. For round 2, we're going to just be increasing into each of the 6 single crochets that we worked around for round 1. So for round 2, we're going to be increasing in each stitch. Now I'm going to start in this first stitch right there. You can see those 2 little ends there. Get our crochet hook under the first 2 loops, just like that. Now I like working around the tail end for our first stitch, just for the first one. Work around that tail end. We're going to do an increase into that one. So 1 and 2, there's our first increase. And we want to do 6 increases total, which is going to bring you up from 6 stitches to 12 stitches. So there's our first increase. Let's do another increase right here. 1, oops. There we go. And 2. Here's our 3rd increase. 1 and 2. 4th increase. 1 and 2. 5th increase. 1, 2. And our 6th and final increase will be in this last stitch right here. 1 and 2. Okay. Now you should have 12 stitches around total. Now just to keep track for your sake, and I guess mine as well, I'm just going to cut a little bit of our yellow yarn, which I'm going to use for a stitch marker. You don't need this if you can keep track of your rounds, but it's a little bit easier to see in the video. I'm also going to cut this tail end. Now I don't want to cut it too close, about like, that's probably fine. You definitely want to be careful to cut it too close. If you cut it too close, it could come out. So just don't cut it too close. Okay, let's get our little tail end. And I like to hold it in between like this. Okay, so we're just going to crochet around it for our first stitch. I'm just going to hold it off to the side like that. Okay, so now we're on round 3 of the head. And for round 3, it's pretty easy. We're just going to single crochet 3 times. So here's our first single crochet. So we got 1, 2, and 3. So that's 3 single crochets and then 1 increase. So 2 single crochets into the next for an increase. Here's the next stitch right here. And there's 1 single crochet and 2 single crochets into the same stitch for an increase. So we're going to repeat that 3 times total. So there's 3 single crochets and then an increase 3 times in a row. So let's do it again. 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, and then an increase, 4 and 5. Okay, 1 more of those. And this is going to bring you up from 12 stitches to 15 stitches. So you should have 15 stitches by the end of this round. I'm going to pull this end just out a bit. 1, 2, and 3. And then here's our increase. 1 and 2. Okay. Pull this tail end over like that. Okay. So now you should have 15 stitches around. Okay. And that's going to be the end of round 3. For round 4, we're just going to be doing a single crochet into each stitch. So you don't need to think too much about this. Just do a single crochet into each stitch around, and there should be 15 stitches total. So we'll just keep going around, single crocheting until you get to the end of the round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is a great opportunity to count your stitches, just to make sure that you have enough. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, whoops, there we go, 14, and here is our 15th stitch. Now I'm going to undo that stitch in just a second, because next up we're going to be making the eyes and the beak and just a bunch of different parts of the face. So first off, we need to get some white yarn. So get your white yarn prepared. You also need to get your yellow yarn prepared. And this round is going to be tricky, so I'm going to try to go nice and slow. Now, I am going to be adding bobble stitches for the eyes to make our eyes like this. But if you want to make it without bobble stitches, just ignore the white bobble stitches that I'm about to do. If you do want the bobble stitch, like googly eye thing, then do what we're going to do. But otherwise, just keep it normal. Okay, so first I'm going to undo the next stitch right here to get our white yarn prepared for our bobble stitch eyes. So we're going to grab our white yarn and we're going to hold it in between the ends, and we're just going to crochet around the white yarn. So we're going to pull through with yellow like that. Okay, so for round 5, we're going to start with a bobble stitch in white. Now, this is going to be a mini bobble stitch, which means that we need a 3 double crochet repeat of this this white yarn. Okay, I know that sounds complicated if you never heard it before, but don't worry, it's very easy. All you need to do is yarn over and go into the next stitch right here. We're going to work around our pink yarn here. We're going to yarn over again and pull through the loop, and yarn over again and pull through the just two loops on the hook, like you're going to do a double crochet. So there's our first part, and you want to repeat that same process 3 times total working into the exact same stitch. So there's one repeat. Let's do that repeat again. Yarn over, go into the same exact stitch right here, yarn over a second time and pull through, and then yarn over a third time and pull through 2 loops on the hook. Okay, there's our second repeat, and you want to do just one more of that repeat. So yarn over, go into the same exact stitch one more time right here, yarn over again and pull through, then yarn over again and pull through 2 loops on the hook. Okay, so now you should have 4 loops on the hook like that. See? And we worked around the pink that whole time. Now to finish this up, all you need to do is we want to switch back over to pink. So I just kind of flip it under like that. We yarn over with pink and pull through all the loops on the hook with our pink yarn like that. Okay, so that's going to be how you're going to do our bobble stitch eye. Now to the next stitch right here, we want to just single crochet 1 in pink. I work around our white yarn, but we also need to work around yellow yarn because we're going to be doing a spiked bobble stitch next for the beak. So we're going to place our yellow yarn. We're going to ignore that other yellow yarn that we're using for our stitch marker. We're going to place it in between where that white yarn is so that we can work around both yarns for our next stitch. We're going to go into the next stitch right here and do a single crochet in pink around those 2 colors. So just yarn over with pink, then yarn over again with pink and pull through the 2 loops like that. And then I'll keep the white yarn in place. It'll keep the yellow yarn in place. I like to pull the white a little bit tighter. Okay, now we're going to be doing a spiked bobble, which is decently complicated. Now I'm going to do it as slow as possible, but I also have a video tutorial for this if you need a little extra help for it. Now first off, we're going to pull our white yarn off to the side like that. Okay, so we're going to hold it with our index finger and just keep it to the side. We're not going to crochet around it for this stitch. Okay, so it starts pretty much the same. It's almost exactly the same as the bobble stitch, but we do a little extra something something in the middle. So we're going to yarn over with our yellow yarn and go into the next stitch right here. Yarn over again and pull through with our yellow yarn, and then yarn over again and pull through 2 loops with our yellow yarn. Okay, so basically the exact same but with yellow, and we're still working around our pink yarn here. Okay, let's do that repeat one more time. Yarn over, go into the same exact stitch right here, yarn over again and pull through, then yarn over again and pull through 2 loops on the hook. Okay, so it's pretty much the exact same so far, but now is where you're going to do something a little bit tricky. We're going to chain 2, so we're going to yarn over and pull through this, just this first loop, we're going to chain 2. So we're going to go 1, yarn over again, and 2. Make sure to only pull through one of those loops. Now we want to slip stitch into the back loop of that first chain that we made. So we're going to turn it just a little bit. See that little back loop right there, that little spine? That's what we want to work into. Let me get a needle right here. Might be easier if you want to use a needle, but you just want to get your crochet hook into that back loop right here. So, but without taking the crochet hook off the loops. So what I do is I just get the end of the crochet hook right up to it, just like that, and I use my nail to just kind of prop it over the crochet hook like so. And now all you need to do is yarn over and slip stitch under that and under the first loop on the hook. Okay, like so. You should have 2 loops on the hook, or 3 loops technically, but 2 in yellow at the end of that first part of this round. That's going to create a little point. Now to finish the spiked bobble up, we need to do one more repeat of that first double crochet repeat. So we're going to yarn over, go into the exact same stitch one more time, right here, yarn over again and pull through, then yarn over again and pull through 2 loops on the hook. 1 and 2. Okay, so now you should have 4 loops on the hook. We're going to change over to our pink yarn, just flip it under, yarn over with our pink yarn and pull through all those loops with pink, like so. And that'll create a little tiny beak. Now what I like to do is I just like to pinch it and make sure that it's all looking good. You can see it from the side, it looks pretty nice. Okay, now for our next stitch, we need to work around our white yarn and around our yellow yarn, but it's going to be a single crochet in pink. Okay, so we just keep our yellow and white over the end there and single crochet into the next stitch right here in pink. So we yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops on the hook. Now I pull everything a little bit tighter after that. Okay, and pull the white a little tighter, a little yellow a little tighter. Okay. All right, and finally, well, now we can just cut the yellow yarn. We don't need it, so we're just going to cut it nice and close like that. That was actually the end of using the yellow yarn completely, so we can just pull it out and toss it to the side. We don't need it for the rest of this pattern. Okay, so into our next stitch, we want to do one more mini bobble in white for our second eye. Again, if you don't want to make your bobble eyes, then this is your chance to skip that part. So I want to flip under so that our white yarn's on top, yarn over with white, go into the next stitch right here, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2. And repeat that 3 times. So there's 1 repeat. Let's do it again. Yarn over into the next stitch right here, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2. There's 2. Let's do one more. Yarn over into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, so now I should have 4 loops on the hook. Then we switch back over to pink, yarn over with pink, and pull through all those loops with pink. Okay, now I like to pull that stitch a little bit tighter, kind of pinch it together a little bit, and then single crochet around this white yarn for our next stitch right here. Just single crochet 1 in pink, just around that white yarn, and pull the white yarn a little tighter like that. And we can cut the yarn like this, nice and close-ish, and pull it to the side like that. Now the rest of this round is just going to be pink stitches, single crochet 10 all the way to the end of this round in just pink. So there's our first single crochet we already made. So there's second single crochet, third, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and oopsies. Let's fix that a little bit. There we go. 10. Okay, so that's going to be the end of round 5 and probably the most difficult round in this whole pattern. Okay, so for the rest of this pattern, for the next 5 rounds in a row, that's rounds 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 5 rounds in a row, we want to single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So there's just going to be 15 single crochets all the way around. Okay, so, and what we're working into is the pink loops on the top. Okay, make sure to work into both loops of all the pink stitches. So just single crochets all the way around. 1, 2, and 3. And there should be 15 stitches into each round. And you want to do 5 rounds of these single crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and do these 5 rounds of single crochets since all it is just me crocheting around and around. And then when we get back, I will show you how to add the face, which includes the gobbler and the eyes and stuff, and then how to finish this head up, and then we can work on the body. So there's our first round done. Let's just keep going around. Okay, so I'm on my last single crochet right here. And that is going to be the end of the head, the end of round 10 and the end of the head there. Now, if you want to make your head straight up attached like this, so it's like attached to the body, what you want to do here is you want to slip stitch into the next. We want to crochet around our brown yarn. Okay, so you'd want to finish your crochet right here around the brown yarn, and then you'd want to do a perfect stripe method by slip stitching into the next stitch right here, like that. I'm going to undo this in a second, and then change to your brown yarn. So I would yarn over with brown yarn. I'm going to yarn over with pink just to show you, but yarn over with brown yarn like that. And then you'd continue this round. You'd continue on to the body here, starting into round 6 of the body. So I'll put a time code somewhere so that you can jump straight to that. But for round 6, you would want to work only into the back loops. So if I was, for example, to be starting round 6 here, I would start into the same stitch that I slip stitched it into right here, and I'd work only into the back loop. Okay, so only into the back one, right, just like that. And you just single crochet into those ones. Now, round 6 is just a preview. Round 6 of the body is you'll single crochet 4 and then increase 1. So we would do that only in back loop. So single crochet 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase, and then you'd repeat that 3 times to get to around to there and blah, blah, blah. But in this video, I'm not going to be making our body attached. That is how you would do it if you wanted to. But because I'm not making my body attached and I want to make a little Birb hat, or mascot head, or whatever we want to call it, what we want to do is we slip stitch into the next stitch right here, yarn over and pull through, and yarn over and pull through, just for a slip stitch. Then we can cut the yarn, and you don't need a very long end because it's not going to be sewn onto anything. And then we just need to hide this end. So I just take the needle, and what I like to do for hiding an end is I go into the back loop of the next stitch right here, just behind it, go straight like that, and then come, this is where it's coming out. Then I want to come back right into where this yarn is coming out of. So like right into the center of that stitch. And then I kind of just hide it into some loops up the body like that. All right. And now let's pull that all the way up like so. Pull it a little bit tighter. Yeah, and it kind of hides that end and it makes it look the same as everything else. So that's how I hide the end. Now I already removed the stitch marker, but if you had a stitch marker in it, now is the time to remove it. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to add in the eyes of our body. So you want to grab your little safety bead eyes. Now I like using 6mm safety bead eyes personally. There's one. Let's get another one. Right, like that. Put this to the side. And what I like to do, and now it depends on how you want to make the eyes. I have a bunch of different ways to make the eyes. Personally, I like making them facing out because it looks a little silly. It just looks goofy. But you can do a bunch of different kinds of stuff like, let me see if I can find one where I've done it a little bit different. I mean, usually I do it out. Oh, here's one where I did it where it's pointing straight ahead. Okay, but I'm going to be showing you how to make them out for this. What I like to do is I take my needle, and you want to place the eyes somewhere in between these 3 stitches. So I like to make it more on the outside, so I like to go around on this out part here and just kind of make a little hole. See how I'm making just a little bit of a gap there? Like that. And I just twist it on the inside with my needle, basically just making enough room so that I can get my eye in there and just pop it on the inside there. Now don't attach it to the back until you are confident that that's where you want both eyes, because it's really hard to undo this. So I want the other one on the outside, so I'm going to go on this side of the eye. See, if I wanted it straight on, I'd put it right here, but I want it on the outside, so I'm going to put it right here. Do the same thing, make a little bit of a gap, just enough you can kind of barely see that gap right there. Just enough to get that eye in there. Let's see what we got here. This one's like really out. I think that'll get fixed in just a second, but let's find out. If you want it a little lower, now is your chance to like kind of fix it. But the bobble stitch is kind of like working against me right now because the backs aren't in. But let's go ahead and lock the back in on both of these, and you'll see how it kind of flattens it up a little bit. Okay, let's do the other one. All right. I'm going to pull these white threads here just a little bit. Try to tighten our eye up a little bit. All right. And I could have done maybe a little bit more work to make sure that they were exactly where I wanted them first. But I like our guy looking a little goofy anyhow. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, see how this one's a little bit further out than this one? I kind of would have liked to make this one just a little bit closer on this side, but whatever. That's why I would say try not to lock it until you know exactly where you want it, because you make a little goof like that. But whatever. He's supposed to look weird and goofy anyhow. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to add our Gobbler. Okay, so we want to take our little Gobbler here, and there's going to be two ends. One is going to start at the top, and one's going to start at the bottom. Now, the bottom one, you want to thread first. So thread that onto a needle, and we're going to put that on the bottom side of the nose, like right here. Okay, so if you want it on this side, it'd be this stitch, but on this side, it'll be this stitch. See, so either side of the little beak, that's where you want the bottom. Now the top, you want to go through, you guessed it, the top, right there. So sometimes I like to place the needle in first and then take the yarn and thread it onto the needle. And then just pull it through. Now you want to pull these ends through enough where both of the knots get pulled through on the inside. I'm going to just kind of pull it out just a little bit so you can kind of see how. Just pull it, and I can feel it. You might not be able to see it though. There we go. See that little knot that gets pulled through right there? That's what you want. You want the knots to get pulled through. And then you can just double knot these on the inside. And you want to double knot them somewhat tight. Don't go overboard because you'll break the yarn, but you do want to double knot it a little bit tighter. Like that. And cut the ends pretty close on the inside, about like that's probably fine. And then I'll just take this and kind of fix everything up a little bit. Make sure everything's looking good. Yeah, there's our toy key. Look at this goofball. All right, so now we have our head finished, and now we can start working on the body. Now again, if you're working on the body attached, just continue on from round 6 in the body, but I'm going to be starting from round 1 of the body. So let's get these guys out of the way, clean up our station a little bit. And we're going to start on the body using our brown yarn. Okay, so for the body, we're going to be using our brown yarn, and we're going to start with the magic loop, which is how we've been doing all of it. So I'm not going to go through too much detail here. Start making a magic loop. Okay, now for round 1 of the body, round 1 and 2 are the exact same as the head. We're just going to be single crocheting 6 times into the magic loop for round 1. So just like the head, single crochet 6 into the magic loop. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to pull it tight like that. And then for round 2 of the body, that'll be the end of round 1. For round 2, we're going to be single crocheting, doing an increase into each stitch around. Okay, so let's grab that little stitch marker again, just to keep track of where we're at. And I'm just going to keep it around this backside like this. And I want to work around our brown tail end for our first stitch as well. So we're just going to do an increase into each stitch around. So we're going to start in this first one right there. Just like that. And we'll do an increase using our brown yarn and working around this tail end for our first stitch. So an increase into each stitch around. So there's our first increase. Now we can stop working around the tail just for that first one. There's going to be 6 increases total, which will bring your total up from 6 stitches to 12 stitches. So you should have 12 stitches by the end of round 2, which is what we're on. Here's our second to last increase, 9, 10, and here's our last one, 11 and 12. Okay, so we can pull this stitch marker down a little bit, like that. And before I start the next round, what I like to do is I take this tail end, I'll pull it a little bit tighter. This is the tail end from the beginning. And what you want to do is you want to take it on a needle and just poke it all the way through the top. Okay, so just right through the center of the top, just like that. And you want to thread this end on the needle, poke it through like that, pull it straight through the top, like so. Pull it tightish, and then I just cut it kind of close, like right like that. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm creating this little tuft of fuzz on the top of his head. I think it adds a lot of texture or a lot of character, and I think it's really cute. So we're just going to do that. Okay. All right, so let's continue on the body. We're on round 3. Now for rounds 3 and 4, for 2 rounds in a row, 3 and 4, we're just going to be doing a single crochet into each stitch around. So we're just going to go into each stitch. There should be 12 stitches for each round. And as you can see, I worked around that our stitch marker there just to keep track of where we were. And we're just doing a single crochet into each stitch around for 12 stitches. This is for 2 rounds total, so if you want to keep track, it's 24 stitches total for both rounds put together. But that might kind of confuse you, so maybe just ignore what I just said. Okay. There we go. Oop, oop, oop. Lost my end there. There we go. There's our first round done. Now I'm going to pull this tail end here up a little bit and do another round. Just to keep our stitch marker in place. And again, here's my second plea. If you like this video, please like it down below, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and consider checking out more of my patterns by going to clubcrochet.com/browse. I have a bunch of different kinds of patterns there. All right, so that's going to be the end of round 4. Now for round 5, we're going to be single crocheting 3 stitches and then increasing into the next. So just like round 3 of the head, where we increased up to 15 stitches, that's what we're doing now. So we're single crocheting 3, 1, 2, 3, and then an increase, 4 and 5. And we're going to repeat that 3 times total. So let's do that repeat again. 1, 2, 3, and then an increase, 4 and 5. One more of those. And this is going to bring you up from 12 stitches to 15 stitches. So you should have 15 stitches by the end of round 5 here. All right, and that's going to be the end of round 5. I'm going to pull our stitch marker up like that. And now we're on round 6. So if you are working on connecting the head to the body, this is where you'll be connecting to. You'll be doing this round that we're about to do into the back loops only of the head. But for me, I'm making the bird head total. The birb and the turkey head attached to it, or not attached to it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be working into both loops of all of these stitches here. So for round 6, what you have to do is single crochet 4. And I'm working around our stitch marker here. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then do an increase into the next right here. 5 and 6. And we're going to repeat that process 3 times total. So let's do our second repeat. 4 single crochets. 1. Oopsies. There we go. 2, 3, and 4, and then our increase, 5 and 6. One more repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase. 5 and 6. Okay, and that is going to be the end of round 6. For round 7, we're going to be just working into both loops now. So if you are back with us from doing the head separately, now you're just going to be working into both loops of all your brown stitches. Okay, so for round 7, we're going to single crochet 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 and 8, 9, 10, and 11. So 11 single crochets, and then an increase into the next stitch. 1 and 2. So there's 2 single crochets into the same stitch for an increase. And then 2 single crochets. 1, 2, and then another increase. Here's our second increase. And then repeat that one more time. So we're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, and then another increase into this last stitch here. 1 and 2, increase. Okay, so again, that's single crochet 11, increase, single crochet 2, increase, single crochet 2, increase. And that's going to bring you up from 18 stitches to 21 stitches. So you should have 21 stitches by the end of round 7. Okay, so for round 8, really easy. We're just going to be doing a single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So we're just going to go ahead and do a single crochet all the way around. And that is going to be 21 stitches total. Okay, so just simple, squimple, just single crochets all the way around. Okay. Coming up to the end here. All right, so here is our last stitch. There's our 21st stitch right there. And now the following is going to be we're going to be adding the face of our birb. So if you are, if the head is attached, if you've made the head attached, just skip the following parts and continue on to round 9. Otherwise, for our case, we're going to be adding the birb face. So we're going to start by sewing on the beak. So in this big mess of stuff here, we want to find our little beak. And we're going to thread this onto our needle. Now you can see there's a difference between the top and the bottom. It's kind of hard to tell, but this is going to be the top and this is going to be the bottom. So we want to crochet the top pointing up. So I'm going to sew on the right side of the top first. So thread on the right side. And here is where I put the beak. I put it into stitches 3 and 5 onto the face, onto the head, into round 4. So this will be round 4. Now the easiest way I found is find the increase right here. Okay, so there's the increase stitch. You can kind of barely see it. I'll hold it upside down for you. Let's see, where's our end? So this is the end of our round. Find the first increase in round 4. So if we count up 1, 2, 3, here's 4. Find that first increase. That's gonna be right there. And the birb beak goes sewn just on each side of that increase. Okay, so we're gonna sew it on from right here. And then 2 stitches over, 1, 2, right there. Like that. Okay, now you want to pull these ends just enough so that the knots get pulled through on the inside. So if you look at the inside there, See how that knot just gets pulled through? 1, and this other knot's giving me trouble. There we go, 2. Okay, so see how both those knots are pulled through? Perfect. Now we want to just double knot that on the inside. So 1, 2. We can cut the yarn pretty close. Throw that to the side. There's our beak sewn on. Now we need to add the eyes. Okay. And the eyes just go 1 stitch away from the beak. So if you look at one side, just 1 stitch away right here. There's one eye, and then the other eye, 1 stitch away right here. There is the second eye. So you can kind of see how his face, little face comes together. Let's go ahead and lock those on the inside. Okay. There we go. Now we have our face on our burb. Now is a good time to sew, pull this top part through also. I'm going to pull a little tighter right there, if you haven't done that already. Okay. And now we can continue on to round 9. Get our stitch marker up like that. Now for round 9, it's basically the same as round 7, but instead of doing increases, we're going to be doing invisible decreases, which I'll teach you when we get there. So to start, we're going to do 11 single crochets. So 11 single crochets. So there's 1, oopsies, there we go, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and here is 11. And now we're going to do an invisible decrease into the next. For an invisible decrease, I'm going to take my crochet hook and go into the front loops only of the next 2 stitches. So only the front part of the next stitch. So just that first part right there. There's 1, and then I go around like that. I always like to do a little loop like this to get into the second. Try to make sure you're only under that front loop like that. So once you're under the 2 front loops there, you're going to do a single crochet into those 2 front loops. So we're going to yarn over, pull through the 2 front loops, then yarn over again and pull the 2 loops on the hook. That's an invisible decrease. So again, that's 11 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. Now we're going to do 2 more single crochets. So 1 and 2, and then another invisible decrease where we'll go front loop, pull through, pull through. There's our second invisible decrease. Now we're going to do that one more time. 2 more single crochets. 1, 2, and our third and final invisible decrease for this round. Front loop, and then a single crochet. There we go. That's going to be the end of round 9. Okay. For round 12, we're going to be, for round 10, I don't know why I jumped all the way to round 12. For round 10, we're going to be single crocheting 1 to the first stitch, and then do an invisible decrease into the next. So front loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to repeat that process of doing a single crochet and then an invisible decrease 6 times total. So let's do our second repeat. Single crochet, invisible decrease. So front loop, 2. So there's our second. Now, this is going to bring you down from 18 stitches, which is what we had at the end of round 9, to 12 stitches. So by the end of round 10 here, you should have 12 stitches around. So front loop, there we go. single crochet, and then invisible decrease. Just a couple more. Single crochet, invisible decrease. Okay. So that is going to be the end of round 10. Now before we do our final round, round 11, we're going to pull this loop out like that. And we're going to start sewing onto the body. So we're going to start by sewing on the wings. So grab your wings. Okay. And now we'll have a right and a left wing. Now you can tell the difference between the front and the back. This is going to be the front of the wing, and this is going to be the back. You can see all these little orange pieces here. Yeah, you want to ignore that part, so you want that on the back of it. So make sure this is the front, which means that this is going to be sewn on to this side, so that the wings are pointed backwards towards the back of them like that. All right, now the placement for where I sew the wings often varies. I change it here and there. I'm going to start by removing our stitch marker just because it's kind of hard to, it might be kind of hard to get this stitch marker out after we've sewn the wings on. There we go. And I'm going to start by threading onto this side of this wing. So this is going to be the right wing. So we're going to thread the very end of the right wing. And we want to go under where the eye is. So like right here. Yeah, just like right there. So I'm doing it 3 stitches under the eye. Right there. And I'm just going to come out through another stitch above it, just like that. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I like that. So we're going to go above it. And I'm going to go through this chain right here. And then back out through where we came out, where we started right there. So I just went down through the chains on the wing and then back through where we came out. Make sure those tail ends are not getting sewn around. And then we want to go through both loops of this end right here. So through both loops of the final stitch on our wing and go through the same place that you came in right there. Same stitch. Okay, so that's our first part of the wing done. Now we can undo that thread off the needle. And now we want to sew all of these little ends into the body. So they can kind of go, it varies where you want to put them. I'm having a hard time threading that one on a needle. Let's see if that'll get pulled through all the way. No, I'm having a tough time there. I want to make sure it's all sewn onto that. So let's go ahead and fold it in half and thread it on the needle. There we go. I'm just going to go 1 stitch over from where we sewed on the first part of the wing. That. And then, let's see, we got another one. We don't want to go too far back, so that's probably as far back as we want to go. Let's thread this other orange end. Come on. There we go. Like that. And then thread this other brown end. We'll go through the same places that first orange end got sewn on. Like that. And we'll pull all of these ends a little tighter. Make sure to watch out for this end attached to the yarn. We're going to need that for crocheting later. You can see how it kind of sewed on like that. Now what we want to do is we want to double knot all these threads on the inside. And I like to double knot 1 brown to 1 red. So like that. And then we'll double knot that on the inside. 1, 2. There's our first double knot, and then I can cut those ones nice and close. Throw that to the side, and then here's our other 2 ends. Let's double knot those 2 now. 1 and 2. And cut those ends on the inside. Throw that to the side. Okay, so there's one wing sewn on. Yeah, I like that. Okay, now we're going to sew the other wing on, and we want it to be a similar distance. So we kind of want to go like, looks like that. Now the thing is, with this wing, this end is a little too far over, and we don't have one for the very center right there. So what we want to do is first we want to hide this tail end in a little bit. So let's clear some room right here. Okay. So we're going to start by threading this end onto our needle. And this end is the one furthest away. And we want to kind of hide this end in. So we're just going to go into, let's go like that. And just go into like 2 or so stitches like so. Yeah, that's pretty good. Just so we have somewhere to sew it on. And then when we sew it onto the side here, our first part is going to probably be like right here. Yeah, like right there. So that means that our next part's going to be like right 1, 2. So let's go like right here. Let's try like right there. See how that looks on it. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to thread our other brown end. And with the other brown end, what I'm going to do is sew it in. Let's go with like 1 stitch over from that. And we're going to come out where we want the edge of the tail to be sewn on. I mean, edge of the wing to be sewn on right there. So right under the eye. I'm going to pull that through. Make sure this is a brown end that you're using, because you want to go around the last stitch right there and back in through the body in the same place, like that. Okay. And then with these tail ends, we can just sew them in. So with these orange tail ends, we'll start with this one. Make sure it looks the way we want it. And then we'll sew this other tail end in right here. And just like our first wing, we want to sew it on, or we want to double knot it so that each brown end gets an orange end to sew together. So here's our 4 ends. Go with these 2 first. Double knot that. 1. 2. Cut those nice and close. Throw that to the side. And then here's the other 2 ends. 1 and 2. Cut the ends there. Okay, so now we have our wings sewn on. Next up, we want to sew on our tail. So that's how our wings look when they're sewn on, by the way. Next up, we want to sew on the tail onto the back. Now, again, on this tail, you'll see that one of these ends is further out than the other one. So we want to bring this end over a few until it's to that round right there. So we're going to thread that on a needle first. And we're just going to hide it into a few of these chains like that. We'll come out like that, just so it's a little bit more even, like so. Okay, now for this tail, it depends on how you want it to be sewn on, which side you want to be facing the back. You can pretty much face either one to the back. I'm going to sew it like this because I think I like that a little bit more. So all 4 of these ends are going to be sewn onto the back. Make sure to get this out of the way so you don't accidentally sew into the end that we need. And basically the tail needs to be sewn all into the same round. So I'm going to go start like right here. And I always like to go up 1 stitch on the tail with whatever pieces are sewing on the outside. So whatever tail ends I'm using for the outside stitches. So this was the orange one, this brown one would be the outside of the other one. These 2 on the inside would be sewn closer to the middle. But I like using the outside ones to sew the top of the tail on just a little bit too, you know, like this. And I just thread into a few of those stitches there. Like that. And let me make sure it's the right placement. That's probably fine. I'm just going to go into the same stitch. Go through. And I always like to do just a little bit through the top of that just to sew it onto the body a little bit better. I find that it like sticks to the body a little bit more. It doesn't like fold out like that. Okay, now let's thread the other ends of the tail. Let's start with these 2 middle ones. So these are going to go on the inside right here. I can actually probably thread both of these through the exact same stitch. And here's a little pro tip. Instead of just sewing it in with the needle, what you can kind of do is if you have a tinier crochet hook, this is a size B crochet hook, I can actually just go in right here with this crochet hook, thread onto these ends, and pull those ends through as if it were a needle like that. Just makes it a little bit easier so I don't have to thread them each on the needle like so. Okay, and then the last bit right here, we do need to thread on the needle because we need to sew it on a little bit tighter. So we're going to thread that on the needle. And we'll go a few stitches over, like go right here. We're going to go up a stitch like that so that we can sew it onto the back a little bit tighter. These look pretty good, And then we just want to thread this onto just a few stitches, like right like that. It's probably fine. And then back through the same stitch. Make sure I like where it is. Yeah, our turkey's coming together. All right, so now we got our 4 ends on the inside, and just like the other bit, we want to sew a brown to an orange, like this. Double knot it, 1, and 2. And cut those a little close, like that. Toss that to the side, and then the other 2 right here. 1 and 2. There we go. We can cut that nice and close. Throw that to the side. All right, so now we got our tail sewn on, we got our wings sewn on, and we just need one more thing. We need to sew on our feet before we finish up this little fella. So I'm going to take the ends of our feet. Now, this is technically the top of the foot, but I like sewing it on so this part is above. So like this. And each one of these ends need to be threaded into a different spot. Now I'm going to use this little crochet hook method for this, just to make it a little quicker. But our first end we want sewn through this part. And you want all of these to be into this round 10. That's round 10 right there. And you want it sewn on, let's say, I think we want it like this. Yeah, so let's thread the left end here first. Okay. And then see how that's not the top? I mean, that is the top, but we don't want that to be the top. We want it to be this way. So take this other end, thread it 1 stitch away right here, like that. Now, this part, you really want to make sure that those knots are pulled on the inside. See, so make sure those knots are sticking through. Try to be careful not to accidentally break your yarn, though, when you're pulling tight. Don't pull it too tight, because you will break your yarn, and then you'll have to remake the foot. You don't want that. Once those 2 knots are pulled through, you can just double knot it. Like that. Cut the ends nice and close. We're going to save all that ends for stuffing our character clothes, by the way. And I like to pinch each of these to make sure that they stay as little feet. And then the other foot we want sewn on into the same row. We're going to go right here for the one side and then 1 stitch over for the other side. So where's our other foot? Okay. So again, that's the top, but we want this to be the top. So we want it to be sewn on like that. And it looks like, yeah, so this will be this side. Pull that through like that. Then 1 stitch over, pull the other side through like that. And then pull those knots so that the knots pop through the back, and then double knot that on the inside. That'll be how we sew on our little feet. We are so close to being done. Okay. And one more thing that I always like to do before I get to the last round. First off, we need to make sure we like how our feet are. Kind of tweak them, pinch them. Looks pretty good. Okay, now one thing that I like to do before I go any further is I need to use a little bit of stuffing to stuff the head up. And I just like to use this stuffing just to get above the eyes here on the head. This is just before we get to our last round. Just like that. Make sure it goes above the head. Like so. Okay, now let's get to our last round. And for our final round, all we need to do is decreases into each stitch around. So let's get our crochet hook onto that. We're on round 11 now. And now for a decrease, I don't mean that invisible decrease that we did the rounds before. This time I mean a sharp decrease. So for a sharp decrease, I'm going to go into the next stitch right here and pull a loop through, as if I was doing a single crochet. But now I want to go into the next stitch right here and pull a second loop through, and pull that second loop through the 2 on the hook, like so. Boop. That's a sharp decrease. It's really going to pull it tight just for the very end there. So let's do another one. Here's our first one. Pull 1 through, and then pull a second one through. Pull that second one through the 2 on the hook. There's 2. 1, 2, and pull that second one through the 2. There's 3. We're going to have 6 total. 1 and 2. There's 4. 2 more. 1, 2. There's 5. Last one. 1. This part can be kind of hard. You might want to pinch it. And then 2. There we go. That's going to be our last one. You can see how it kind of closes it in a little bit. Now we can cut the yarn. You want just enough so we can sew it closed. Just pull that all the way through like that. Okay, now let's stuff our character just a bit. I'm going to use some of this end. I don't think I'll be able to fit all of it in there. So let's start with just a little bit. These are our little tail ends there to stuff them up. And I like to use the back of my crochet hook. It helps me get into those pieces. If you want, you can use the back of a smaller crochet hook or a stick. Might help a little bit more. Really make sure you get the stuffing in all the places. Tail ends there. I can add a little bit more of this thread, since it's just going to be trash anyhow, and I'd rather save on stuffing instead of just throw more things into the garbage. Okay. There we go. And I always like to finish with a little bit of stuffing to make sure, because the stuffing kind of fills it a little bit more, fills all the places that we didn't get to. So just a little tiny bit of stuffing to get to the bottom there. There we go. Just like that. Okay, and then the last thing that I want to do before sewing completely closed is we want to add some little mini magnets. Now, you don't have to add these mini magnets, but I like to add the mini magnets so I can attach it to anything metal like the refrigerator or a curtain rod. And I use these little tiny ones. They're super strong magnets, like really strong. I just take 3 of them, 3 of these little mini magnets, and I take it and I just pop it on the very bottom just like that, and then we're just going to sew it closed around that. So I thread this on a needle, and I've been doing this new way to sew closed, where all I do is I go into the front loops of all the stitches around. So I just go only into that front loop just like that. Go 1, 2, oopsies, 3, 4. Let's go 5. There. Let's do one more right here. And then once you have all those front loops, you can just pull it and it closes that up like that. And then you can just go straight through the bottom and then somewhere on the back. Really anywhere you want to go on the back like that. And then you can just cut it nice and close. Like so. All right. And that is going to be how to crochet a turkey birb. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. I do like to throw just a little bit of extra stuffing into the top of the head like this. It just keeps the head a little fuller when you put it on the top of the turkey birb. So just fill that stuffing just a little bit and then just pop it on the top like that. And I just kind of twist it like that. Once you get it on there, it stays on pretty tight. It doesn't really go anywhere. All right. Well, thank you so much again for watching. I hope you guys like this video. Please like and subscribe down below. Check out more of my Birb patterns by going to clubcrochet.com/Birb. We've got a pigeon that'll be out pretty soon. We are going to have a little cardinal. I love the cardinal. So I did really cool color changes in the face for the cardinal. This owl, I'm not sure when I'm going to come out with this owl, but I really like the trim of it. Let me know if you like it on the inside or in the comments. There is a hummingbird. I think the hummingbird is probably my favorite one so far. I really love the hummingbird. I love the little heart tail. I'm pretty big fan of that one. Also, this is what he looks like under it. I love the black little face thing. Let's see what other ones we got. We got an eagle. Goofy looking eagle too. I like its unibrow. And his beak is kind of cool. Sewn into 2 different parts. A duck. Nice goofy little duck. Probably should do a platypus eventually. And then my favorite one so far is this little barn owl, which I just love him. He's so cute. And of course, all of these guys are really secretly little Birbs like that. All right. Well, thanks again for watching. Happy Thanksgiving, pasta la pizza, and happy hooking. Bye.